Okay, now we're going to try and do a bit of a longer response. We're going to do a 10-mark question on this text. The question is, how does the writer show Frances's reactions to Mr. Barber? How does the writer show her reactions to Mr. Barber? And it's worth 10 marks. So we've got to look at here what the writer says, so literally what Frances's reactions are, but we've also got to look at how they get it across, like the language that is used to show her reactions. So we're looking for Frances's reactions, and we know it's worth 10 marks. So we're aiming to find about 7 or more quotations that show what her reactions are. Okay, so let's talk through the text. Okay, if you're confident, you could go straight to the text and start answering. But if you'd like a little bit more guidance, so I'm going to talk to you about some of the evidence that you could potentially use in your response. So, there was no one save Mr. Barber, a cigarette in the corner of his mouth, his jacket off, his cuffs rolled back. He was fiddling with the nasty thing he'd evidently just hung. So I'm not going to read the whole text to you again. I'm just going to skip to the bits that you might find useful. Now, this nasty thing that he's hanging is a piece. It's this barometer and clothes brush set. He's decorating the room in a style, isn't he, that Frances finds distasteful and tacky. Okay, next up. So this clothes brush set has got a lurid orangey varnish, and lurid means sort of garish, tacky, bright in a really sort of cheap and distasteful kind of way, and orangey as well. It's really sort of in your face. He's really making some big changes to the house that Frances doesn't appreciate. And then we get the repetition of this word lurid, and she says that the lurid touches were everywhere. So that exaggerates it a bit, doesn't it? It continues the idea that the changes that he's making to her house, her property, she doesn't like. And she reacts again with dismay. So there's a sense almost of sadness, I think, a little bit there. A negative response. She doesn't really like what he's doing. Then here's a great simile. It was as if a giant mouth had sucked a bag of boiled sweets and given the house a lick. Now, the idea of being boiled sweets is to do with one, the colours that he's using, the idea of it being sweet and tacky and without substance, because sweets don't fill you up. They're sugary, they're tasty, but there's nothing really to it. The idea of the mouth and the licking, though, is got this idea of contamination, doesn't it? As if he's the guest who's come into the house and he's contaminating her life and her way of living. And it's distasteful, as if she's been almost contaminated by him. Doesn't like it. So we get the carpet being covered by these pseudo Persian rugs. Pseudo, they're not real Persian rugs. They're mimicking Persian rugs. They're not the real thing. So again, a sense of tackiness. The lovely pier glass, so the beautiful things that they've got in the room have been covered up by their own things, the guests' things. And then we get the idea of don't forget this bit, the idea about the bird cage that's screwed into the ceiling, as if there's a sense of they're really changing things. They've screwed it into the ceiling, a sense of permanence. They've got the landing light turned up high as well. Again, hissing away as if furious. The personification there of the landing light. Hissing as well. Hissing is a really sharp noise. It's to do with snakes and predators, isn't it? So, and the idea of fury is it's almost as if the house is reacting to them being there. And they've got the light turned on really high, which is again pretty obnoxious, isn't it? Because it's Frances and her mother who are paying for the electricity. So again, a sense of violation, like they feel violated by having these people there. And she mimics this dreadful brightness all around him, and the brightness to do with the sense of change, inescapable change that these people, these guests, have brought upon Frances and her mother. Okay, so that's some of the evidence that you could use in your response. Let's have a look at how you could start it before you start to type it up. So what we want to do is get our evidence, our quotation, and our comment in really quickly so we can pick up a mark. So firstly, Frances describes the decoration hung by Mr. Barber as the nasty thing, suggesting she thinks he has no taste. Tick, that would get 1 mark. This is continued as she comments on the lurid colours he is using. Tick, 2nd mark. Okay, so we get 2 marks so far. And yep, there we go. That's where your 2 marks would go. Remember, guys, you get a mark when you quote and comment. You must answer the question. And now it's your turn. I'd like you to time yourself, and there'll be a timer in the dialogue box. How does the writer show Frances's reactions to Mr. Barber? 10 minutes. Aim for 10 quotations from the text. And good luck.